Hello, welcome back. I'm the Erroneous Kaiser. All right, everyone knows that I really love horror movies, and I thought this being October, this would be a good chance for me to do 31 days of horror movies. I watch a horror movie, at least one horror movie every day, and I'll tell you a little bit of what I think of them. Usually, actually, I write in a journal. I have a horror movie journal, and I figured because I have the journal, I can write down my thoughts, and I could maybe in one video just tell like little snippets of what I've been watching recently. All right, I'll talk about the first 13 days of my 31 days of horror. Also, for this, I wanted to do a whole bunch of movies that I haven't seen. Or I haven't seen in like a really long time. So I want to make at least 80 to 90% of these movies I've never seen before. So me being a horror fan, that means I have to dig like deep into maybe some kind of weirder stuff, or and a lot of times older stuff from the 70s that I just haven't gotten around to seeing yet. So if maybe you're a fan of horror, maybe you can find something that you've never seen before as well. So Burn Witch Burn. This is a movie from 1962. All right, I guess I give this movie like a 6 out of 10. At first, I was thinking that this movie was going to be kind of dull, but actually, right off the bat, this movie like starts with It was pretty bold. I thought they went with a totally black screen, and there's a voiceover, a warning. Warning. This movie involves real black magic. And then he goes on to like say this prayer. Say, I'll say a prayer now to dispel all the effects of the black magic. And I was like, oh man, better not be some like kind of weird 1950s like Christian message type of movie. But then it wasn't. He starts off, "Oh, creator of Hecate, Markina, Marduk's messenger," and like right after that, I was sold. I was like, okay, this is gonna be pretty cool. And then on top of that, the prayer lasts for like over a minute, and I'm like, okay, it's getting a little long here. The movie itself, I thought it had a very strong first half, but when things are winding up, you see there's a bunch of plot lines that went absolutely nowhere. There's this one plot line where this one student who's kind of infatuated with our main professor, she and her boyfriend make up some stuff about him like raping her, and I don't know why they actually put that in. It didn't really tie into the overarching story, and then it went absolutely nowhere after she finally admitted it was false or something. But the boyfriend then tried to like kill the main professor, and then after that we see they don't come back at all after that. And I thought that would be something that we'd get a call back to later on. It doesn't go anywhere really. As far as the main plot goes, it's this one guy, he's a professor, and he is really into debunking mysticism, black magic, that type of thing. His wife, when they were researching it in some country a few years ago, actually began to believe in it a lot. So she has a whole bunch of like black magic protections, charms, and that kind of thing in the house. Uh, Dude makes his wife get rid of all of the stuff because I mean it's the product of the times, I guess. Yeah, 1960s, man of the house controls everything. Even though his wife's like freaking out, he's like, if you destroy all these, I'll have no control over what happens to you. And he's supposed to be like super successful, and people are really jealous of him. So, of course, once she gets rid of all of the charms, bad stuff starts happening one after the other. Which that is maybe one of the reasons why there was this false rape accusation. But I feel like that's going like really weird in one direction. I mean, other stuff doesn't. I'm like it's like he almost gets hit by a car, and then there's a false rape accusation. Like it's just like these two totally different like extremes as to how much bad stuff that can happen to you. Yeah, it got weird that way. Although this is a far cry from a bad movie, I wouldn't recommend it unless, like me, you've just seen most of the really good stuff from the era and you just wanted something new. Right, next up is Rabid from 1977. I would give this one maybe a 4 out of 10, something like that. Our main star, Marilyn Chambers, I looked her up a little bit after the movie. was the first female to do an interracial porn movie for the United States. It's called Behind the Green Door. So at the time, this was like it was a major thing. She's supposed to be what people call the most successful porn to film transition actor, or something like that. I mean, I if this is the film that you're making the transition to, that's not as big a success as it sounds, I think. I mean, there are enough fans of this movie to think that it required a reboot, which they did, which I will be watching a little later, because I didn't see that either. Perhaps this is a classic that I just skipped over, but yeah, there is a lot of weird stuff going on. There's a woman and her boyfriend are out on a motorcycle joyride. They get in an accident. She's trapped underneath the motorcycle. She has, I guess, like horrible burns, and they're right next to this plastic surgery hospital. And so the real hospital, intensive care hospital that she should be going to, is too far away for her to get treatment. So for a month, she's in recovery at this plastic surgery hospital. Her boyfriend is there too, but he didn't have that much damage. So the doctors use these new methods, these new plastic surgery methods, to bring her back to her original form, right? Somewhere in there, the side effect of that is she gets looks like a butthole in her armpit, where a spike comes out, and then she has to drink other people's blood through that. And like, seriously, it seriously looks like a butthole. So she preys on men pretty much the whole time. And in this movie, there are a bunch of dudes who are hitting on her all the time when she gets out of the hospital. But and then, so yeah, she's taking them in dark corners and then sucking their blood. So she even goes into a porn theater in New York at one point, and one dude starts hitting on her inside the porn theater, and then so she sucks him dry there. Thing is, after that, they turn into kind of like, the movie name is Rabid. They turn into these rabid ghouls that only live for like 24 hours before they die. But anybody they bite would get infected, and spreads infection like that. Maybe it was just the 70s, but it seems like everybody in this movie is a bald, mustachioed creeper. But after actually watching it, I'm like, oh, hey, this is like what's happening in the news right now. Like the weirdos that were hitting on her all the time, and like how far they were going before she ended up killing them. So yeah, that was kind of weird. Also, everything happens in Quebec. So I'm not sure if this was a Canadian movie, but if it was, yeah, no, thank you, Canada. This is a newer movie, so of course I hadn't seen it. This is from 2019, Satanic Panic. Just the title alone just makes me want to watch the movie. I did enjoy this. I gave it an 8 out of 10. A pizza girl goes to deliver pizza in a very rich neighborhood. She ends up inside the house, interrupting some satanic ritual where they're supposed to sacrifice a virgin, but they don't have one. She happens to be a virgin, and they definitely need her to sacrifice to Baphomet. I really do love most movies that have Satanists and human sacrifice as a major plot point. I feel like that's straight down my alley of like the specific one corner of horror that I really like. I think comedy, gore, and Satanism all culminating into a comedic, gory, satanic orgy are the perfect ingredients for a very solid movie, which this definitely is for 95% of it. Dead Space Downfall is an animated movie from 2008. I would give this a 6 out of 10 on my scale, which actually means nothing. I'm kind of pulling the numbers right out of my butt. I actually didn't play any of the Dead Space games till just a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I played the first and second one, and I loved them. I wouldn't recommend this movie for anyone who hasn't played the games, because I think you need that background to really understand what's going on in the first place. Unless you just like watching animated gore, which this has a ton of. This is a prequel telling, how everybody died on the Ishimuda. Wait, what is it? Ishimaru? One of those. Yeah, so it tells it how that happened. So it's just pretty much it's just a murder reel. The animation style is on par with pretty what kind of stuff that comes out nowadays through DC and stuff. They did go the extra mile on showing a lot of the gore, which is great. Voice acting, I would say, is really solid. If you did enjoy the gore or the atmosphere of the games, there are worse ways to spend an hour and 15 minutes. I mean, if you haven't played the games, this isn't the best jumping on point, but I mean, yeah, there's worse stuff to watch. Pet Sematary 2 from 1992. I give this a 50%, 5 out of 10. This is a movie I totally thought I had watched, but slipped through the cracks somewhere. We got John Connor from Terminator 2 playing another pissed off teen named Jeff this time. Not John. He's not the only guy with a chip on his shoulder, though. I feel like more than half of the people with speaking lines in this movie are just insufferable idiots. Jeff, after the death of his mother, moves with his veterinarian father into a new house in town, and he helps his new friend bury his dog in the behind the pet cemetery in the Indian burial grounds. This sets off a chain of events which, like, you absolutely know his mother's coming back at some point. It's like screaming that the whole movie, and she comes in a little late and does almost nothing, which I thought was a little bit of a disappointment. The biggest problem I had with this movie was sitting here thinking about, wait, how did they get in the house? Or were they waiting there the whole time? That just seems impractical. The most unbelievable thing about this movie wasn't the dead coming back to life, it was believing how fast the dead could be without teleportation devices. Mom and Dad from 2017. I would give this a 7 out of 10 just for Nicolas Cage's ranting and screaming. Like, best line.
Your motherfucking mother should open the door! Motherfuckers! You're going to open this motherfucking door!
This movie is filled with adrenaline, and I was like, it seems familiar somehow. And yeah, it's the same director who did Crank, so like that kind of like fast-paced, like camera flipping action there. I mean, it's not a negative. It's definitely an addition to the movie, and I like it. As far as the story goes, there's an unknown signal that plays on TVs in static and makes parents want to kill their children, but only their children. So, we get like a big confrontation at the school. So half of the movie is just a setup for the final confrontation of one family in their house. There are a bunch of flashbacks in the movie that I kind of don't like so much. There is one very nice Nicolas Cage rant, but aside from that, I feel like they were just kind of trying to pad the movie, perhaps. But overall, I think probably the people who made this movie just had some kids, and kind of like how Stephen King made The Shining, right? Or he wrote The Shining as like a response to his family and him like going nuts. Perhaps this is a similar kind of situation with The Shining for the people who actually wrote it. As people who want to maybe fantasize about killing their children, but would never actually do it in real life, of course. Crawl from 2018. I would give this a 6 out of 10 on my absolutely pointless scale. This is complete trash, but I loved almost every minute of it. The choices the characters make are infuriating, and I think the alligators ate all the reason when making the script. So what we got here, there is a hurricane in Florida somewhere. There are a father and his daughter are trapped in a huge crawl space underneath their house that is infested with alligators, or the whole neighborhood, I guess, is. But yeah, as the floodwaters rise, they're also getting flooded in the crawl space, and they can't get out because the alligators are near the stairs. All right. So the characters continually get bit by alligators and then just pop right back in the next scene as if the alligator didn't just mangle their legs or arms or torsos or whatever. Like, they really just pop back with seemingly no damage, like the very next scene. Like, you see like blood like spurting out of a cut, and then next scene they're just like running up some stairs or something like that. Insane. Make sure you watch it with somebody, because you need someone to look over to and say, wait, that makes absolutely no sense, like 20 times through the movie. I mean, hurricane flooding is no joke, but these alligators made this a horribly trashy fun time. Next is Zombies. All right, also known by the title Wasting Away, I guess. This was made in 2007, and I would give this one a 6 out of 10. The premise of this movie was seriously so promising. The movie starts out in black and white, and there's a chemical spill, and it gets into some ice cream. So these teenagers that work at a bowling alley eat the ice. This like bright. The only color is the bright neon that's from the chemical. Then it gets into the ice cream. They think they're making beer soft serve, and that's why it's green or something. I don't know. And so they eat that. When they do, boom, everything goes into color, and the world around them seems to go into high speed. So they're normal, and it looks like everyone else is sped up, and they're like normally talking and stuff like that. But when we switch to the other perspective, they are horrible zombies. I mean, the budget is probably subterranean, but of course they did do a lot with only a little. Yeah, the sad part is they don't really go farther or deeper than the original premise, and that makes the movie seem a little long for me. The Night Sitter from 2018. I guess I am doing quite a few newer ones right off the bat. There's some old ones coming in the future. I would give this an 8 out of 10. It's very solid. The movie is very fun, and I guess the beginning of the plot is kind of unique. A babysitter is hired to babysit some kids, but her ulterior motive is that she wants to rob this place in rich white suburbia. The father of the kids that she's babysitting just happens to be a ghost hunter and so he has a bunch of artifacts in his study that they're not supposed to go into, but they end up releasing these 3 witches. The babysitter calls over her friends to help rob the place once the kids are in bed, but the witches have been released, so they all have to work together. It was really cool because actually everyone worked pretty well as a team, except this one kid who he wants to be her boyfriend. He's like is he supposed to be like some clingy, annoying, like a good boy who wants to make the bad girl into a responsible citizen or something like that, and he's just really annoying the whole time. But that is by design. It didn't just end up that way. That's definitely what they were going for. Movies where they actually go through with killing children, I really respect them. I feel like that you have to have a lot of balls to actually kill a child on screen. They showed it, but it still was a split-second take. But I really enjoyed that they put the effort into killing children. I don't want to kill any children. I hope no children die ever again. But it made for a nice addition. That being said, it is weird some of the stuff they showed on screen and some of the murders or the killings or deaths or whatever that happened off screen. I'm not sure if it was just a budget concern or they just had problems with it visually. They couldn't really represent it in a believable way, which I guess I can understand. Unrelated to the gore, there is one scene where a girl gets topless. It is not the super hot redhead in the lead, though, which is a bummer.
How dare you talking about boobs?
I'm probably gonna get some flack for that. Mad Monster Party. This is a stop motion animation movie from 1967. I would give this a 3 out of 10. Just because it's so boring. Respect to them for doing stop motion, which is very time consuming. This was, I guess it was put out around the holidays. Same as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer went out around Christmas. Somebody put this out around Halloween. I feel like the character designs in this were pretty good, but I feel like even Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer could get creepier at some points than this whole movie. The plot goes, Dr. Frankenstein invites all of the monsters over to his mansion to announce that he's retiring from, I don't know what, like monsterdom or something. He's not actually a monster, but he's giving everything he knows to his nephew, just a normal, like, clumsy human being. So the monsters all plot to kill him so they could take over. Because I guess in this world, Dr. Frankenstein is the top of the monsters, even though he's the human. It's also a musical, and not a single one of the songs is even remotely memorable, which actually was the biggest disappointment for me. Depraved from 2019. I'd give this, like a 5 out of 10. This is a modern Frankenstein's monster story. I don't know why there have been so many bad tellings of Frankenstein. And this movie had a very strong start. I just feel that it really, it killed itself around the halfway point. The characters and their motivations just seem to flip around to whatever was convenient to carry the plot rather than believable development. One of the biggest problems I had was, okay, spoiler for this one, I can't hold back on this. The monster drops off a locket to a girl that he was dating or was engaged to before he died, and then just disappears. And then to show he was still alive, that has incredibly horrible consequences. I feel like they're trying to show that, oh, he still has a heart or something. That's totally heartless. It's like in Shakespeare's Titus, when Aaron, he's this evil guy, right? He's supposed to be, and he says something along the lines, I can't quote Shakespeare. Well, maybe I should. I could just look it up.
Oft have I digged up dead men from their graves and set them upright at their dear friends' doors, even when their sorrows almost was forgot. And on their skins, as on the barks of trees, have with my knife carved in Roman letters, let not my sorrow die, though I am dead.
It just seems like, to me, it was the exact opposite of what he should be doing to show his former lover that he was, ghosted? I don't know. Detectives from 2018. I'd give this a solid 7 out of 10. So some reality show, Ghost Hunters. They've been making it up for years, but now their show isn't getting as good as ratings. So I guess the head of the network sends them to the most haunted house in Mexico. Well, we know what's going to happen. They meet ghosts for the first time. So this is respectful enough of the genre to actually kill people. This is much more in the comedy vein. I could see this as a Ghostbusters origin story or something like that. Instead of that crappy Ghostbusters movie they made just a few years ago, if they went something more like this, where it was just how they were getting into ghost busting, it is that kind of Ghostbusters comedy to horror ratio is still going on here. I feel like this is a better Ghostbuster story than that one was. Ernest Scared Stupid from 1991. I've seen a lot of Ernest stuff before, Goes to Camp and the TV show and Christmas one. I guess I just missed out on the Scared Stupid one for some reason. I would give this a 3 out of 10. There is no point to watch this if you hadn't seen it as a child. Like, even knowing Ernest and thinking I would get a little bit of nostalgia from that. But yeah, sure, a few of his like faces, or whatever he did. I was like, oh yeah, he did those in those other things. But other than that, this was a pain to get through. The troll costumes themselves were actually really good. And I liked how, yeah, there was always like snot coming out of all their noses, and when they opened their mouth, there was like these stringy, like goop saliva things, and I was, it made them kind of gross. But like the acting, both on the part of the kids and the adults, was horrendous. It was painful, man. If I saw it as a kid, maybe I could have appreciated it a little bit more, or maybe I would have looked at it and be like, oh my god, why did I even like Ernest at all? Because I did get a little bit of that. I'm like, because Ernest is weird. I mean, there are a few characters that even now I still like. Like that lady with the neck brace. I do like her. I like seeing her. She made a few appearances and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't know if they always did this in the movies, but they addressed that Ernest has a multiple personality syndrome. One kid even addresses it, and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't know if you like. I didn't understand like how I was supposed to see that as well, you know? Because in this movie, he's just switching between all the characters like in one short period of time, and then it made me think like, does he have to change all of his clothes each time we see him up there? And then there was this disconnect. I had to stop. I had to stop thinking about it. I was like, no, just I had to stop. Were the costumes in Ernest's mind, and it was just him making faces? There's just too many questions. All right, that's the first Lucky 13. I hope to be maybe another week or two come up with another set. I got a lot of stuff from the 70s lined up in my watch list right now, so that'll probably make up a big chunk of the next set. So keep a lookout for that. If you got some really like out of left field horror movie that you think might be a nice addition to this list, add it down in the comments. If you get motivated to check any of these out, let me know what you think about them down in the comments as well. All right, that's all for part 1. Keep a lookout for part 2. I'm the Erroneous Kaiser. I'll see you next time.